Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today, I want to explore the world of dreams and try to understand them in relation to reality creation. I have spoken of dreams, of course, many times on this podcast in relation to Neville Goddard. In almost every one of his lectures, he would describe his own dreams or the dreams of people that wrote him letters. Dreams are discussed by Dr. Joseph Murphy, and dreams are discussed by Vadim Zeland and a variety of authors in the field of reality creation. So I want to understand what they mean. When someone I know says, "Hey, I had this dream that my son died in a car accident," what am I supposed to tell them? Do you know how to interpret dreams yourself, and what do they mean? So let's talk about dreams and see if we can use dreams and the understanding of them to predict our future, to understand ourselves, and to communicate with God. Dreams have been an important part of the human race since the beginning of civilization. When our predecessors sat around the fire and talked about the dream world, there emerged another dimension of reality, one that was peopled with animals and ancestors, evidence of what was later to be understood as the collective unconscious, through which all humankind is connected. Even as science reveals more of the technical aspects of what happens in the brain during REM sleep, the sensation of the power of dreams to reveal more of the soul to the dreamer is unmistakable. Though we are more disconnected from the soulful realm than ever before, through the dream world, we find a profound connection to the self and therefore to all of humanity. On a personal level, anyone who has gazed into the mystery of a dream with a bit of reverence knows the value of such exploration. By understanding your dreams better, I think you can gain a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Dreams are stories told in a language of symbols, or they're visions of the future and the past, and unrealized realities. To understand this language of symbols, you must go to the heart of the image itself. The universal meaning of any symbol is held within its use. Its essence is purpose or its inherent qualities. Once you understand this relatively simple concept, every dream interpretation is simply a story about the story that the dream is telling. There is no wrong way to interpret a dream. The meaning of a dream is deeply personal and much depends on the dreamer and the sensation of the dream. And over time, the insight that a dream has to offer can even change and evolve. Most important to remember is that the dream itself has a consciousness of its own. Like an excited child discovering a new activity, it just wants to be seen and acknowledged. Simply thinking about a dream is enough to stimulate the unconscious mind, to offer more information to help you understand yourself better. The true value behind interpreting a dream for yourself is not the final meaning you give it, but in the process of investigating it. You should really consider in how to approach the landscape of the dream world itself. And how are we going to do this to understand that? How do we understand what is actually happening when you have these dreams? Although dreams can mirror many aspects of your waking life, the most powerful way of working with them is to consider every element of the dream as a reflection of your own consciousness. You can consider that your own consciousness is made up of many facets, and a dream is a symbolic glimpse into your inner world. Noted psychologist Carl Jung, who is considered the father of modern dream work. It was Jung, a contemporary of Freud, who postulated the existence of the collective unconscious, a realm that connects all human beings to the same archetypal information, no matter what culture or geography might separate them, which to me sounds like the beginnings of a social memory complex discussed in The Law of One and the Raw Material. Check out my previous episodes on that discussion and idea. In Jung's travels, Jung discovered that his upper-class patients in Switzerland were having the same exact dreams as the natives in Africa he visited. Of course, the Swiss businessmen were more likely to be chased by bankers than tigers, but the themes were the same. According to Jungian philosophy, the people in your dreams represent various aspects of yourself. I refer to these as character aspects, where the waking life qualities exhibited by the people represent those qualities as they live in you, the dreamer. This is reflected in many of the terms that you will find when you read about what dreams are in different dream dictionaries. As complex human beings, we understand ourselves in a fractured way when we talk about dreams, because it's very difficult, if not impossible, to properly investigate. You might say it feels like this or feels like that. There is a shadow world to dreams, and dreams have nightmares. And for the average person, an endless variety of dark, socially unacceptable emotions remain tucked away in their unconscious minds and never see the light of day outside of their dreams, where their dreams play these shadow sides out. In order to grow and expand in wisdom and consciousness, we must continually explore these dark, hidden realms as well, in order to discover more of who we are. Dreams are perhaps the most important way in which this is done throughout life. Nightmares and disturbing dreams are most likely emanating from the shadow. Those that take place at night or in dark landscapes are also likely to be shadow dreams. Anything in a dream that runs contrary to your nature or being, such as skin and hair color as well as gender, is also an indication that the shadow is being expressed. If a section of a dream features a dangerous, frightening, or mysterious occurrence, this too is likely to be a moment of the shadow calling to you. Things that are within your conscious awareness have no difficulty being integrated into your sense of who you are. You discover something new and take it in, and your identity is expanded. When something is coming from the shadow, however, the process is confounded by fear and resistance. The material itself is made up of elements of your personality that you disown, and they are therefore more difficult to reconcile. Dreams are the best way to help release the grip of fear that can often hold you back in life. This happens by virtue of illuminating the places in your consciousness where that fear lives. The process is irrational and mysterious, but spending some quality time with your dreams can actually relieve some of the bondage that fear and inhibition can cause. All dreams are valuable, but those that are dark and scary offer a particular opportunity. Don't ignore them or try to forget about them. It is even possible that nightmares are scary so that they will be remembered more easily. The shadow in dreams points to the very place in the recesses of the unconscious that needs to be released in order for expansion and growth to occur. Once this has been identified, it is no longer in the shadow, and light fills the space that was once dark. But the most important aspect for me personally, that really made me change and look back and really start to analyze my dreams, was the discussion in Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard explains a belief that he was God and Christ and had lived the experiences of Christ through visions that he had. So how do we differentiate visions from dreams? I think that it's probably more clear. There is no doubt. But all these things seem to happen in dreams. Did Neville Goddard dream these things? Well, we see in the Bible where God is communicating to the prophets and everybody and anybody in the dream state every time. As it says in the Bible, for God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when you deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. Lo, all these things worketh God oftentimes with man. Job 33:14 through 16 and 29. In this scripture, Elihu states that God gives us sealed instructions in the form of dreams. Because these messages are sealed within parables, we seldom recognize them as being from God. Treating dreams like junk mail, we often throw away the very answers we ask. When we pray for counsel and guidance, we say, God, give us wisdom, give me an information that I need, and then we have a dream and we ignore it. How often do we hear someone say, I had a weird dream this morning? Paul said that God chose the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. In Corinthians 1:27, although many dreams are foolish or senseless to the world, they are precious to those who understand the hidden wisdom from above. 1 Corinthians 2:7. Now, the way God communicated with people most frequently in the Bible was through dreams. The dreams recorded in the Bible often seem ridiculous, yet their interpretations are quite sensible. For example, Pharaoh dreamed of 7 cows that ate 7 other cows, and then he dreamed of 7 ears of corn that ate 7 other ears of corn. The interpretation of these 2 strange dreams saved Egypt from starvation in Genesis 41:15 through 48. The Bible reveals that in the past, God spoke through dreams to saints and sinners alike, warning them, directing them, helping them. He still does. By carefully studying the Bible to find out how God spoke to men in the past, we can learn his method of talking to us now. How often does God communicate with us in dreams? Job 33:29 reveals that God gives us instructions oftentimes. And Job even says that God visits us every morning. The postman arrives often and early. What is man, that thou shouldest magnify him, and that thou shouldest set thine heart upon him, and that thou shouldest visit him every morning and try him every moment. Job 7:17 to 18. Although night visions are easily recognizable as being from God, for instance, the Neville Goddard visions were probably no doubt recognizable. Dreams are not. The scriptures state that it is our old man that dreams dreams. Therefore, they are normally given in parable form. For this reason, they must be interpreted if we are to understand what God is saying. And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Acts 2:17. Neville Goddard says, but if he knows who he really is, the Spirit of God who creates all things dwells in him, and that he can detach that indwelling being from the body that he wears and actually enter his dream, the dream will take on reality. And if he persists in it, it will objectify itself in this world. In one lecture, Goddard stated that he was convinced that the thing you really are is dreaming what you believe yourself to be. And one day you will awaken, and the dreamer of you will be one. so that everything is a dream. Goddard also says everything that appears without was first an image, nothing more than a dream, which was created by the dreamer in you. And another, he says, we are told that God speaks to man in a dream and unveils himself in a vision. Now, vision is a waking dream like this room, while a dream occurs when you are not fully awake. In the 12th chapter of the book of Numbers, it is said that God speaks to man through the medium of dreams and makes himself known through vision, as we have just said. If God makes himself known to you through vision and speaks to you in a dream, what is more important than to remember your dreams and visions? You can't compare the morning's paper or any book you may read to your vision of the night, for that is an instruction from the depth of yourself. God in you speaks to you in a dream. So I journal my dreams, or at least have a dream journal next to my bed every single day. You never know when you're going to get some wisdom from a dream. And so that's what I try to do. A person spends a third of their lifetime asleep. Unfortunately, scientific research can only offer us a limited understanding of the human sleep state. And so what exactly happens to a person when they are asleep remains a mystery if you're the scientist listening to this. Philosophical interpretations of dreams are no more enlightening. We can trust our own instincts and do our best. And I will give you interpretations in this of different things and what they have been interpreted as, but there is no correct answer. They span from one extreme to another. And some people say that dreams are an illusion. And then other experts will claim that life itself is nothing more than a dream, as we hear Neville Goddard say repeatedly. So who should we believe? When adults remember their dreams, they tell themselves what they saw was not real. The mind is comforted by the interpretation that dreams are a product of the imagination, somehow generated in a state of rest. We know that children up to the age of 4 fail to distinguish between what they see in a dreaming and a waking state. They believe that the content of their dream is happening in the same space as the rest of their life. When a child wakes terrified from a nightmare, they are convinced that the monster is still somewhere in the bedroom, and nothing their parents can say will comfort them. Gradually, the child's mind begins to accept the idea that dreams are not real. We discussed previously how the mind quickly and willingly organizes any new information that it receives according to abstract references, and yet it takes a whole 4 years to convince the mind that dreams are not real. This must be the only thing that the mind cannot willingly accept. Most people have no memory of their life before the age of 4, and so as adults they cannot bear witness to the confusion the mind must have experienced upon awakening from a dream when it was still believed to be real. Every night when the mind switches off, it falls innocently into a kind of trap. It does not occur to us to take a critical view of events whilst we are asleep. Even on waking, we are surprised by how real and very natural the virtual reality of our dreams appeared. The mind is accustomed to finding a rational explanation for everything, and so despite the fact that people see quite bizarre events in their dreams, for some reason, in the moment of dreaming, the mind responds as if they were quite normal. Whenever we notice or experience something unusual, the mind will instantly provide a rational explanation. And despite this, we do not question the reality of what is happening in the world around us when we are in a conscious waking state. And the same is true of dreaming. Despite the mind's incessant need to control, the simple question, is this real, slips through the prism of control, and the mind falls into the dream trap. So when the Bible says I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream, in Numbers 12:6. How do we use this information? What does it mean? Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. Check out my previous episodes. He would go into deep sleep states and access the Akashic records. He did several dream interpretations. He interpreted over 1,000 dreams in his sessions that you can read about for various individuals who requested it, using access to the Akashic records. And clearly from his research, they're an avenue of self-knowledge, but not every dream provides guidance about what we should do. Decisions are best made at the conscious level, so I don't know if we should be making decisions directly related to dreams, but that's a question I'm trying to answer with this podcast. So they can reveal that we need to make better decisions in analysis. Cayce also claims that dreams are a type of reasoning, not deductive reasoning, which is the familiar way the conscious mind works, starting with an overall assumption and figuring out specific ways that assumption plays out. And he encourages us to look for extrasensory perceptions in our dreams. Predictive dreams, he does say, can warn us. Sometimes they can be telepathic dreams meant to give us more information about another person. So there are numerous references in the Bible to dreams and visions and revelations and warnings given to men during sleep. Your subconscious mind is active 24 hours a day and never sleeps. The Bible points out that Joseph was amazingly accurate in his analyses of the dreams of Pharaoh, and that his mental acumen and sagacity in predicting the future through the interpretation of dreams brought him praise, honor, and recognition by the king. Dreams have captivated scientists and scholars and mystics and philosophers. Still, many answers to man's most acute problems have been given in dreams. Since biblical days, various interpreters and expositors in every country have been engaged in the analysis of the interpretation of dreams. We talked about Jung, but there's also Freud and Adler and other distinguished psychologists and psychiatrists studying the symbols portrayed, releasing hidden phobias and fixations and mental complexes. Your dreams are projections of the contents of your subconscious mind, Dr. Joseph Murphy says, explaining that in many instances they answer your problems and warn you regarding investments, journeys, and marriage, as well as pitfalls of daily living. Your dream is a dramatization of your subconscious mind and is not fatalistic. You mold, fashion, and shape your own future by your thoughts and feeling. Anything in your subconscious is subject to change, and when you know the laws of mind, you predict your own future. Remember, your future is your present thinking made manifest, because your subconscious mind faithfully reproduces your habitual thinking 24 hours a day. Dr. Murphy explains the meaning of the symbols in your dreams. The symbols which appear in your dreams are personal and apply to each individual only. The same symbol appearing in the dream of a friend or other member of your family may have a completely different meaning. The dream reveals a small fortune in dollar bills. Dr. Joseph Murphy, in a lecture on extrasensory perception revealed as answers in dreams, tells a story that he once had a telephone call from a woman in New York City stating that her husband had told her prior to his demise that he planned to take a large sum of money from his private safe and invest it in a foreign country for greater returns. A few days later, he passed on, and when the safe deposit box in the bank was opened, there was no cash, but there was a record at the bank that 2 days previously had visited the vault. There was no trace or record of any investment and a minute inspection of his desk revealed no clues. I suggested to her that she turn her request over to her subconscious mind, which knew the answer, and that it would reveal the answer to her in its own way. She prayed as follows prior to sleep. My subconscious knows where my husband secreted that money, and I accept the answer and believe implicitly the solution will come clearly into my conscious mind. She quietly dwelled on the meaning of these words, knowing they would be impressed on her subconscious, thereby activating its response. She had a very vivid dream in which she saw a small black box hidden behind a picture of Lincoln on the wall in her husband's work den. She was shown in the dream how to press a secret button which could not be seen with the naked eye. When she awakened, the rush to the den took down the picture of Lincoln, and when she pressed the button revealed in the dream, an opening appeared containing the black box, which in turn contained $50,000 in currency. She discovered the treasures of her subconscious, which knows all, sees all, and has the know-how of accomplishment. You too can take a similar step in putting this power to work in locating a treasure of any type, Murphy says, that really belongs to you. In another story, Murphy says a young woman in San Francisco experienced a recurrent dream for 4 consecutive nights. In her dream, her fiancé, who was living in Los Angeles, appeared to her, and quite suddenly a very high mountain, which seemed impossible to scale, came between them. In the dream, she was deeply surprised, frustrated, and bewildered. She awoke wrestling with the problem and sensing something very wrong and shady. Murphy asked her what the mountain signified to her, as every dream, when interpreted properly, must coincide with the inner awareness and feeling of the dreamer. Moreover, a recurrent dream is very important, as it is the intuitive voice of your subconscious saying to you, stop, look, and listen. The word mountain to her meant an insuperable obstacle. I suggested to her that she speak to her fiancé about the dream and gain the assurance that there was nothing hidden that was not revealed to her, and nothing covered that was not made known to her. Accordingly, she flew down to Los Angeles to see her fiancé, who met her at the airport. After a heart-to-heart talk, he finally told her, I am a homosexual. I want to marry you so that my customers who are very religious would not suspect anything. Her dreams prevented her from experiencing what eventually would have been a traumatic shock. You too can exercise the same or greater foresight through analyzing the recurrent happenings in your dreams. This young lady had sensed something wrong for some months, but she could not put her finger on it. She prayed specifically, claiming that infinite intelligence of her subconscious mind would reveal the answer and that it would be clearly shown to her. The Bible says, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. There are many types of dreams. There are variegated types of dreams, some due to sexual frustration and repression, Murphy explains. Others due to mental and emotional turmoil, bodily malfunctioning, fears, and religious taboos, reproduction and recast of past events or of the activities of the day. However, there are many dreams of a recurrent nature as well as of a precognitive significance, wherein you see events before they happen. Many times you are given detailed instructions in the dream state as to what action to take. In another dream that helped a woman reveal the man she married, Murphy explains a young businesswoman had a dream in which she saw a young man, tall, fair blue-eyed, and with blonde hair. In the dream, he proposed to her and she accepted. A few days later, she met him when he entered the office where she worked to interview one of the attorneys who employed her. He invited her out and they shortly became fast friends. 2 months later, they were married. Dreams similar to this one are quite frequent. as it is not at all uncommon for a man or woman to envisage ahead of time the person the dreamer will marry. It is possible to tap great intuitive powers by putting your mind and your dreams to work, as in this instance. This young woman had been praying and affirming every night for the ideal mate. This is the affirmation that Murphy said she was doing at the time that she had this dream. I know that I am one with God now. In Him I live, move, and have my being. God is life. This life is the life of all men and women. We are all sons and daughters of the one Father. I know and believe there is a man waiting to love and cherish me. I know I can contribute to his happiness and peace. He loves my ideals, and I love his ideals. He does not want to make me over, neither do I want to make him over. There are mutual love, freedom, and respect. There is one mind. I know him now. In this mind, I unite with the qualities and attributes that I admire and want expressed by my husband. I am one with them in my mind. We know and love each other already in divine mind. I see God in him. He sees God in me. Having met him within, I must meet him in the without, for this is the law of my own mind. These words go forth and accomplish whereunto they are sent. I know it is now done, finished, and accomplished in God. Thank you, Father. These truths which she affirmed found their way into her subconscious mind, and having identified herself with the qualities she admired in a man, her subconscious revealed to her the answer, and a man who was the embodiment of the ideal was automatically attracted to her. Murphy claimed that you could activate extrasensory perception while in your dreams. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. Proverbs 6:22. In sleep, your conscious mind is creatively joined to your subconscious mind. Many people think that sleep is intended only for rest of the body, but nothing rests while you are asleep, as your subconscious and the vital processes of your body, though slowed down considerably, continue to function. A restorative process sets in during sleep, resulting in a feeling of well-being due to the fact that there is a restoration of physical energy. Another reason we go to sleep is to develop spiritually. Therefore, it is a paramount of importance that we would avoid all discomfort or discordant states prior to sleep. The divinity that shapes our ends is all wise and has so arranged it that man is compelled to withdraw from the world of noise, which is not conducive to spiritual unfoldment. Man is divinely guided in sleep. Answers to many problems are given him in the sleep state. Formulas, inventive devices, poems, contents for many volumes are also given in the dream state. The contents of many chapters in chemical textbooks and in the engineering laboratories of the world appeared in a dream, in answer to a request of the dreamer. So how can we invent and discover something new using our dreams? You may have a vague or general idea of what you want to invent or discover, and that is all. Murphy gives a technique is learn all you can about it, objectively, and then in a passive and relaxed state, dwell on a mental picture of that which you wish to invent. Then turn over your mental picture to your subconscious, asking it to complete all details and go to sleep. When you awaken, be sure to follow the hunches you receive. It sometimes comes as an inner feeling that the solution lies in a certain direction or in a certain group of facts. You will find that many times the entire formula or solution may appear in a dream. In such cases, it is wise to have a pencil near you So you sleep so that when you awaken, you may jot down the impressions that come to you in your dreams. You may be greatly surprised as to what has been given to you in your sleeping state. Some say, I never dream. We all dream. If you don't remember your dreams, suggest to your subconscious before you drop off to sleep, I remember my dreams. It knows what you want to remember and will faithfully follow your instructions. It's done unto you as you believe, Murphy says. Your dream state may be one of the most positive doorways to psychic perception. Another really fantastic book is by Anthony Norvell, a book called Psychic Dreamology, which has some terrific stuff on how to tap psychic power of your dreams and make them work for you. Claiming that your dreams can be psychic and clairvoyant and reveal something about your future and guide you to certain actions in order to fulfill your destiny. In the book, Norvell explains a technique to tap the psychic power, claiming that one, just before you go to bed each night, have a session with your unconscious, with your subconscious, and you can make out dream schedule on which you list some of the things you want your psychic centers to project through your dreams. And your dream schedule can include anything you desire, including I want to make money or I want to be healthy. One really good statement he has is, I wish to have clairvoyant and psychic visions of the following things that I desire in my life. I ask that psychic guidance come to me through my dreams, revealing the pattern of my future destiny. Secondly, he says, after you've written down a dream schedule, listing what you want your higher psychic mind to project in your dreams, read it over once or twice and be sure it reflects accurately the things you really want. And then you lie down and prepare your usual sleep, with this exception. Instead of forcing yourself to go to sleep, start mentally to review each event that you've listed on your dream schedule. Make yourself the main actor in each incident of the dream schedule, seeing yourself living it fully. As you progress down the list, you will find yourself becoming very drowsy, and soon you will fall asleep. This is similar to the technique that Neville Goddard is most popular for, and that is falling asleep to the feeling and dream of the wish fulfilled. And as you do that, you begin to see it in your waking life. Norvell explains that he knew somebody named Robert who learned how to use this technique from a lesson that he had, dreamology on a lecture in Los Angeles. And he needed $50,000 to open a business that he had long planned. As he had exhausted all other sources for raising the money, he decided to give the problem to his higher psychic mind. When he went to bed each night, he kept programming the thought, I need $50,000 to open my own business. I ask my higher psychic mind to show me a way by which I can raise that money. Then he visualized the place of business he desired, pictured his name on the storefront, and mentally saw customers flocking into his store. He finally drifted off to sleep, and his psychic centers were programmed with one overwhelming thought: show me how to get the sum of $50,000. One night, he had a vivid dream in which he saw himself at the Santa Anita racetrack betting on the horses. This in itself was surprising, for he seldom gambled. He saw numbers 1 and 1 in the daily double, and he awoke with the vivid feeling that he must go to the racetrack. The next day, he took $100 and followed the psychic hunch, betting it all on number 1 to the first and second races. The 2 horses he selected were long shots at odds of 35 to 1, He felt they could never win against the favorites, but he went ahead and bought the tickets anyway. In the first race, the horse trailed the field until the stretch, when it suddenly began to surge ahead, winning by half a length. In the second race, his horse was second all the way around the track, and at the finish line, the favorite seemed to be ahead. The man's heart sank, and he was about to tear up his tickets when the photo finish flashed on the big board, and he realized he had a chance to win. After a tense few moments, number 1 flashed onto the board as the winner, and he knew that his clairvoyant and psychic dream had been accurate. This man won $35,000 from his tickets, and with this sum, he was able to go into business he had long dreamed of operating. And the third thing he recommends is, in order to prepare your subconscious to receive your dreams and project them to your conscious mind when you awake, just before you go to sleep, prepare your mental psychic screen on which you project various pictures of things you want to dream into existence. And then fourth, he recommends sensitizing your mental psychic screen. Project the particular gifts and talents you wish to develop each night when you go to sleep. See yourself, for example, composing songs or writing stories or inventing objects. And then the final thing is, he recommends a dream catharsis. Many people's psychic centers are clouded by disturbed and disorganized dreams that have a way of returning night after night to plague the dreamer. This is often due to mental programming we receive all our lives. Dream catharsis will help remove these negative mental images from your subconscious and return to you the wholesomeness of the free state, where you will no longer have nightmares and dreams. So just before drifting off to sleep, tell your subconscious something like this: tonight I want to give me only pleasant, safe, beautiful dreams in which I shall be a hero, playing out a romantic life in which all my dreams shall come true. When you've programmed your higher mind with that statement, go over some of the ugly, unhappy, and unfortunate experiences you have bad in your past life. Start with your earliest memories and mentally review them in brief flashes, just as though you were watching them flash onto the motion picture. Many times you will find that these unfortunate and tragic mental images have been buried in your subconscious. Review your frustrations, and when you've carried them all, what happens, there's a catharsis. When you think about things beforehand, that is what helps. This is a really good statement to read also, or to listen to before sleeping. He recommends saying, I now wish to program my subconscious with these new thought forms and mental images. I desire a clear mind which shall do its work in an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. I project the mental image of perfect health, mentally and physically. I wish to be a loving person, attracting love and giving love. I wish to function as an integrated human being, enjoying social reciprocity and working well with others. I desire financial security and all that implies in the way of leisure, culture, travel, and fulfillment of my desires. I wish to program a charming and magnetic personality so that I shall be attractive to others and will be well liked. I would like to remove from my higher psychic centers all feelings of guilt, inferiority, and self-consciousness. I want to function perfectly in love relations with my true soul mate so that I can find fulfillment in love and marriage, bringing up my own family in harmonious and joyful environment. I want to have a peace of mind and a peace of soul so that I can fulfill my cosmic destiny on the mental, physical, and spiritual planes of expression. The other thing that Norvell does in this book that's pretty good is gives some symbology. And as we said before, none of it is completely accurate, but knowing some different symbology and what things may mean can be helpful. He, like myself, recommends do not think that everything has a sexual significance. Freud, in his earlier studies, believed that most dreams were sex-related. However, modern researchers in dreamology have found that the subconscious uses dreams to translate life experiences into messages. So it's not, when people start to say, oh, it's all sexually related, it's not. In a leading research study of 10,000 dreams, it was found that a person seldom dreams about his routine work or humdrum daily activities, but generally takes on a new identity, a new life, and an environment quite different from his everyday one. This proves that the subconscious does not want to dwell in the restricted activities of the job, the small income, and the shabby environment the dreamer lives in, but prefers to paint a picture of the life that could be if the dreamer would awaken to his potential for greatness. So, Norvell tries to give some explanations of different dreams and what they symbolized. For instance, have you ever dreamed of falling through the air? Norvell explains this dream could be interpreted in several ways. It may be presenting a psychic picture of a future downfall that awaits the dreamer when he is flying high or being very successful. It often represents the subconscious belief that some catastrophe awaits the individual, and it is warning him to prepare for it. A man who had invested heavily in the stock market often had the dream that he was flying, and he experienced an exhilarating sensation while he soared like a bird high above the earth. The thing that he didn't like, however, was when he discovered that he did not really have wings, and in sudden fear he began to fall to earth. He would awake from these dreams and anxiety, wondering what they could possibly mean. A few months later, the stock market in which he had invested most of his savings suddenly collapsed, sending his stocks plummeting and losing him most of his fortune. Had this man been aware of the psychic content of his flying dreams, he might have taken steps to avert the disaster. The subconscious often takes stock of a situation in real life and apprehends the hidden dangers or threats that exist. They're representing its findings in the form of dreams. If you are clever enough to search your dreams for their objective content and then analyze them in reference to your own particular life situation, you may have an accurate group of events that are foreshadowed in your future and may be able to take steps to avoid them, according to Norvell. Dreams of flying above the earth. A dream that one is flying without sudden falling could symbolize the fact that your life lacks inspiration and has fallen into a pattern of dullness, mediocrity, and boredom. You long to escape your work, your home problems, your debts, and worries. Some dreams of flying that bring exhilaration and joy can be interpreted as your subconscious desire to free yourself of a job that bores you, or it could indicate the higher aspirations of your psychic mind, which is trying to tell you that you can rise above your limitations and soar into the boundless realms of success. Another popular dream is the one of the ferocious animal, which often represents fear or warns of an impending disaster. It's used by the subconscious oftentimes as a symbol to warn of illness or calamities that threaten the physical self, a business, or a marriage. Norvell gives several examples of a woman who figured out her husband's affair through dreams like this. Many people have dreams of going to a public event naked, which I've had several times, which for me personally was an interpretation that I felt was that people were seeing the real me. But it was also a battle with me and my own ego and self-confidence many times. There's so many different things that we could talk about in symbology of dreams that we'd probably have to dedicate an entire episode, but that's just a couple of examples. And I've always wanted to get better at interpreting dreams, as Neville Goddard shows that it can be very powerful in understanding the message that God has given. So part of the research for this was just to really understand that, but also I desire to understand more about lucid dreaming. I have a lucid dreaming meditation that is very popular and has helped me to become lucid several times. And by becoming lucid in your dreams, you can become lucid in your waking life, as described by Zealand in the Transurfing book. Sometimes if we are lucky, something quite miraculous happens, and we wake up in a dream, Zealand says in Reality Transurfing, suddenly aware that we are dreaming. Usually this happens when we dream about something extraordinary or have a nightmare. The rational mind is shocked into part waking, and we understand what to do next in the dream. At this point, the unconscious dream state shifts into lucid dreaming. In lucid dreaming, a person can take part in their dream as if it were a virtual game. At the same time, understanding that it is just a dream. If you have never experienced lucid dreaming, or if this is the first time you've even heard of it, you can be certain that it is not a product of your imagination. Numerous books have been published on the topic, and there are many individuals who practice lucid dreaming consistently. It is not difficult to try lucid dreaming because it can be brought on by the power of intention. And the power of intention is the important thing you develop by becoming lucid in your dreams. To wake up in a dream, you have to train your mind to ask the question, is this real? It is not that difficult to do if you are motivated. The process of training the mind is quite straightforward, but it does require your focused attention. Over the course of a day, you need to ask yourself whether you are seeing it as real at least 10 times. Your inner guardian will assist you. Instruct your inner guardian to keep asking whether you are asleep. It is important that you answer each time as conscientiously as possible so that the rational mind retains a critical attitude rather than it becoming a routine procedure. Ask yourself if you're dreaming, and then seriously try to answer it on a regular basis. Shake yourself a little to increase the alertness. Look around. Assess the situation and ask yourself whether everything is as usual or whether something strange is happening. Have you awoken in something that seemed as if it was a real dream, like the movies, and it wasn't, like the movie Inception? If you are persistent enough, you will eventually wake up in your dream. For some, it takes a while. You will probably find that it is quite difficult to remember to ask yourself this question 10 times a day. And so you have to be really motivated if you want the technique to work. When I first started doing it, I do it 2 or 3 times, but the 10 times a day is the recommendation of Zealand in his book, Reality Transurfing. Depending on the strength of your intention, you may begin to experience lucid dreaming within a few days or perhaps a few months. It can be helpful to use a chiming clock. You can then program your inner guardian to ask you whether you are asleep or not every time the clock chimes. The sound of the clock will be like a bridge to consciousness. When you are asleep and the clock chimes, your inner guardian will become more alert out of habit, which should in turn waken your rational mind, causing you to wake up in the dream. You can use other bridges between waking and sleeping as long as you are using a sound that can be heard whilst you are asleep. Avoid linking your question to signals you can rely on, such as the sound of an incoming telephone call. Unless you receive a call in the middle of the night, you will not get the necessary trigger until you see a phone call in your dream. As you can see, the basic principle is to develop a habit of regularly asking yourself whether what is happening is real. Try to answer the question with awareness rather than mechanically. It is important to train yourself to to assess the situation critically and respond to the question conscientiously. Because for many dreamers, the one thing that shifts them into lucid dreaming is recognizing an anomaly, a contradiction or a quirky element in their dream that normally they would pay no attention to. Why practice lucid dreaming? At the very least, it is fun to consciously play with your dream like in a virtual game, rather than just have it happen. No science fiction book or computer game can compare with lucid dreaming, when you can do anything your imagination can conjure up. When an unpleasant situation arises in a dream, you can will it to change. For example, in a dream where someone is chasing you, if you think what is happening to you is real, it would be very difficult to escape. If you are aware that you are dreaming, you will probably try to wake up from the dream, which does not always work. However, once you are aware that it is just a dream, that you can act much more effectively by simply looking back at your pursuer and thinking, go away, get lost, disappear, the pursuer will vanish immediately. You can even mentally lift them up and make them turn cartwheels in the air. Anything is possible in your dream, as long as two conditions are fulfilled. The dreamer can control everything that happens in their dream. First, they have to be aware they are dreaming. And second, there has to be a realization that here they can do anything. For example, if you are dreaming lucidly and want to fly, nothing could be simpler. All it requires is your intention. An important distinction should be made between desire and an intention. The desire alone to rise up into the air will lead to nothing. In dreaming as in waking, it is the same with raising your hand. You can say to yourself that you want to raise your hand, but you do not necessarily move it. Then you suddenly decide to act and you raise your hand, transforming desire into action by the power of intention. You do not think about how you are going to raise your hand. You just do it. And it is the same with flying in a dream. You simply decide to rise up in the air and you can fly wherever you want to. Returning to the example of the nightmare about being chased, the desire alone to be free of the pursuer is not enough. When fear takes hold, the rational mind loses the advantage at every turn of events. It is as if someone else decides the rules of the game. Even if you are aware that you are dreaming, you will remain powerless to act until you decide to take control, whilst you play the role of the passive victim. The game will have control over you. It makes no difference that the game is a product of your own imagination. You are still effectively a slave to your imagination as you tremble in fear and run. In lucid dreaming, you can choose the role you want to play. You can even stop and decide to swap roles with your pursuer, who will oblige you and turn on their heel. Imagine how comical that would be. To any question that starts, is it possible to do such and such in a dream? The answer is always yes. You can talk to people, the living and the deceased. You can do whatever you want with people and objects in your dreams. Fly around on other planets, solve problems, compose music, rehearse scenes, travel. In comparison to what you can experience in a lucid dream, serious drugs are merely a child's play and a lot more harmful. You can also bring information back from a dream. The only thing you cannot do is return with a material object, though I've heard stories that that's possible too. If you find that you do not remember your dreams, note what direction that you're sleeping in, Zealand says, claiming that it's considered best to sleep with your head to the north. Avoid sleeping with your head to the west, as this can have a negative impact on your health. Now, I don't know if that's true. I would love to know if, since I've discussed this on other episodes, if anybody has changed the direction that they sleep in. He claims it could be a connected with the impact of the Earth's magnetic fields and the iron in your body. So try sleeping with your head to the north, and your dreams should be more vivid and diverse. Do not worry if you have no desire to practice lucid dreaming. So in lucid and non-lucid dreams, the pictures that we can see, very, very vivid, depicting the tiniest details sometimes in our dreams, are sharper in form and richer in color than in everyday life. There's a hypothesis that the brain synthesizes certain pictures and during sleep perceives them in the same manner as it would in a waking state, similar to hypnosis. As yet, no one has succeeded in proving this theory. The best reality creation model interprets the origin of the images we see in dreams slightly differently. Rather than independently creating these images, the subconscious directly connects to the alternative space or the space of variations or the void or the quantum field and the information it contains. If you look carefully at an object and then close your eyes and try to imagine it, you will not be able to see it as clearly, even if you have excellent powers of visualization. The image your brain commits to memory is like a low-resolution photograph. Even if the brain stores the photograph as a group of neurons, in a certain condition, no quantity of neurons would ever be enough to reproduce all the photographs of all your memories. If our memories and dreams are a product of the information recorded by neurons, imagine how many of these cells would have to be contained in our heads. So the really big epiphany that comes from the reality transurfing and the physics material indicates that we are not accessing the memories from inside our mind. We're accessing an address where the memories exist. Like when you type in a link on a web page, you're taken to the web page where that exists. You may have the memory of the link, if that makes sense. The brain does not store information itself. It stores the address to where the information is located in the quantum field. The brain is capable of retaining a certain volume of data. However, despite the fact that the brain represents a perfect biological system, it is not capable of holding everything that we are willing to commit to memory. Neither can the brain synthesize the perfect virtual reality that we see in our dreams. It is difficult even in a waking state to close your eyes and mentally imagine pictures as naturally as one would see them in a dream. And so it is pointless to indulge in flimsy arguments that claim that the mind suddenly requires the ability to perceive imagined images perfectly as soon as it switches off in the sleep state. The mind is not capable of creating anything fundamentally new. The mind is not the thing where the new ideas are coming from. All the Neville Goddard literature indicates it's the imagination which is beyond just our mind. It can only build a new version of a house from old bricks if we were just using our mind. The rational mind only contains primitive information about the building bricks and how to put them together. We store more detailed information on paper or other forms of memory. All other information is channeled to the mind via the heart from the quantum field. In the reality creation model that we're talking about, the brain represents a comparatively primitive system whose function can be replicated by technology. Scientists have tried to replicate the functioning of the brain and yet attempt to create artificial intelligence have not yet been successful. The mind may be capable of understanding itself to some degree, but it is still incapable of understanding the nature of the heart. The heart is where it knows all the addresses. The secret of the intellect in any living being lies in the harmonious connection between the heart and mind. So far, efforts in the spheres of cybernetics have been limited to modeling thought processes familiar to the mind. Maybe one day, someone will design a machine capable of retrieving information from the quantum field as the heart does. Somehow the mind is capable of remembering the address of relevant sectors in the alternative space or the space of variations. And if it needs to remember something, the mind turns to the heart, which attunes to the corresponding sector in the information field of the quantum state. Perhaps the heart is not very good at attuning to sectors in the field. Perhaps the mind is not very efficient when it comes to retrieving addresses in the information field. Or maybe the mind and heart are just not very good at collaborating. You have to admit that the human memory is far from perfect. The heart is capable of randomly attuning to sectors of the quantum field that have not been transformed into physical reality. Of all the diverse possibilities, these are the pictures we see in our dreams, and this is why the dream space appears so real. Dreams are not illusions in the usual sense of the word. They are not simply imagined. The mind genuinely sees them. We know that people see pictures in their dreams that do not seem to be of this world. For example, one might see an architectural construction in minute detail that in principle could not exist anywhere on the planet. If a dream is simply the brain's memory of reality, where then are images sourced that we could never have observed with the waking eye? As we have said previously, sectors of the alternative space containing various versions of scripts and scenery. The scenery includes our surroundings as well as living beings. If you remember seeing someone you know in a dream, someone close to you or an acquaintance, you may have noted that they looked slightly different to how they are in a waking. They may have a different hairstyle or unusual clothes, or display different personality traits, or behave in a different manner. In a dream, you can recognize your friends at the same time noticing something strange about them. My theory is that we explore parallel realities all the time in our dreams. When we say that we're exploring the alternative space, we may be exploring other realities from the past and future. In waking, we observe the alternative of possible realities that have been realized in the physical domain. And in dreams, we're able to see things that have not been realized in the physical. If you are lucky enough to see your reflection in a mirror when dreaming, what you see may shock you. I asked for people to do that in the lucid dreaming meditation. And oftentimes people saw themselves completely different, older or younger. And that is one way to find out what portion of the timeline that you're accessing, if you're accessing a portion of the timeline. So we know that dreams could be a message, they could be a vision, or they could be an experience where our soul is just freely exploring what's happening in the quantum field. And so we're trying to figure out a distinction of these three things. In dreams, a person's appearance corresponds to the sector. So when you look different, it's because that's what you would look like. It's amazing. God probably created so many incredible realities that you never ever took a part of. And he's like, oh man, there's that one where you were the millionaire, or you were the spy, but you can still explore it virtually a little bit when your soul is asleep. And that's why it's so hard. The soul just loves to jump around and explore. And many times, I think the soul fights back when you try to program it with things like my 8-hour affirmations. When people do that, sometimes they feel a resistance to it. It's because the subconscious wants to play. And so you can create your will over it in some ways. In dreams, we are able to see things that have not been realized in the physical, and that's the important thing. It does not mean it's real or will happen. It's not prophetic 100%. And so we have to remember that. In the interview with Julie Ryan, she also explained, looking into the future, that it's always never for sure. So if you're dreaming and accessing a prophetic dream, I believe that it's not set in stone, that it knows your heart in communication with your real God self knows all of the truths and what's going to happen. and is trying to communicate with you as subtly as it can without violating your free will. It doesn't want to make it easy for you. So, depending on the difference between the virtual sector in the dream and the current reality, you will be different. And the surroundings you see in a dream may change depending on how far the virtual sector is from the sector that is manifest as your current reality. You might see your hometown in a dream, but it will appear slightly different. The same streets and houses will have a strange look to them, and you'll be confused, as if you were seeing an apparition. And if the energy body travels far from its current sector, you may end up in a completely unfamiliar environment, seeing places and people that live in their own virtual life that does not exist on the material plane. Whatever role you play in that setting, everything that happens there is happening on a non-physical level. Your role is also virtual, but according to Zealand, not quite an illusion. An alternative to your personality may or may not be present in that sector in real life. You may be exploring in a dream a sector that is real, physically, a parallel reality that did manifest into reality. And if it is, you might be able to meet your energy double, which is an interesting thought, that we are walking around in our manifest physical reality, but we may be meeting people that are dreaming themselves into this reality and that are walking around in a dream in another reality that are waking up. Their soul has imported their consciousness into the body, and you may be talking to somebody that's actually dreaming, and then when they're about to wake up, and this was only a temporary existence for them. So it's a kind of an interesting thought when you think about it. Maybe our powers of perception are such that we can only perceive information from the field in the form of a moving film roll, or perhaps it is a quality of space that can only show itself to us in the form of moving alternatives. If the soul can fly around different sectors in the dream, in the alternative space, in the quantum field, it means that the soul observes movement. And if this is so, what time period is the soul accessing the dream state? The past, the future, or the present? Everything about the dream space generates more questions than answers. One thing, however, is certain: dreams are not an illusion. It might seem weird to say that every night we move into the quantum field and live a virtual life there. The quantum field may not have a tangible physical foundation, but it is real nonetheless. This field possibility exists. So the question is, using this model, now going back and looking at the symbologies that we've discussed in the earlier parts of this, how do we interpret dreams? This model will tell us that dreams demonstrate what could have happened in the past or what could happen in the future. We already know what actually happened in the past and the future in the alternative space in the quantum field, and it's too diverse to guarantee what we see in our dreams as is an image of the sector that is about to become realized in the physical. Adjacent sectors contain very similar scripts and scenery, and so if the sector occurring in a dream lies close to the dreamer's current lifeline, it may well contain information relevant to impending events in that person's life. However, you can never be sure that the sector you see in a dream does in fact run close to your current lifeline. It may well contain information relevant to impending events in that person's life. However, you can never be sure that the sector you see in a dream state does in fact run close to your current lifeline. The heart is capable of sensing approaching events, and gut feeling is the most reliable sign a person can work with. In waking, the heart signals how comfortable it feels in response to what is happening both on the current lifeline and in relation to an imminent change in the flow. Other signs also relate to sectors currently manifest on the material level and those sectors immediately adjacent to them. In dreams, however, only God can know which sector the soul is exploring. No one can totally rely on the information perceived in dreams, precisely because the soul can fly into any sector at all within the quantum field. Another interesting question about it is the choice of the script of the dream. Who chooses the script for the events we witness if they are not simply the product of our own imagination? A script is an essential part of every sector in the alternative space or the quantum field, and I believe it's God. How events develop when the mind is sleeping so deeply that we do not remember our dreams, nobody can say, except for God. In everyday life, events are controlled by a person's mind and behavior, but in our dreams, the mind plays the role of passive observer, taking things for granted. Events are staged according to the script belonging to a given sector. As soon as the soul enters that sector, events develop in accordance with the same expectation, anxieties, and opinions that are part of that person in waking. In dreams, personal expectations and anxieties are realized instantly. For example, if a being comes onto the stage that the dreamer is afraid of, a threat script will materialize instantly. You only have to have the slightest whiff of the thought that you might be in danger of being pursued, and a monster will appear to start chasing you. The soul chooses a script that corresponds to the dreamer's thoughts and expectations and moves through the quantum field as their thoughts change. The film roll is turned by the driving force of the dreamer's thoughts and expectations. If you could completely stop your mind from functioning, the film would freeze instantly. Thoughts, however, do not stop. They continually chatter away in the mind. Events in dreams do not necessarily conform to our usual perception of things, because the mind's control is weakened. Things can appear all topsy-turvy, or inconceivable visions can appear in which laws of physics are defied. Incredible things can happen in lucid dreaming too, because the rational mind, understanding that it is just a fantasy, will accept all sorts of strange things. Now you can see why anything can happen in a dream. Dreaming is the soul's travel through the quantum field and the space of possibilities, where all scripts and roles and possibilities exist. In lucid dreaming, it is not so much that the script changes of its own accord, so much as it is selected via intention. So if you become lucid in a dream, when you become lucid while awake, that is what is amazing. As soon as the intention emerges in your thoughts to swap roles with your pursuer, for instance, or do something like that, it's lightning speed. The claim that our life is no more than a dream is unfounded, and yet in other contexts is not totally devoid of meaning. There's many levels when Neville Goddard says we are being dreamed. We may be. Is it all a dream? There are dream aspects. So, because of this, you always create the object of your mind's most dominating thoughts. In dreams, inert matter poses no obstacles, and so the process of shifting between sectors occurs pretty fast and instantaneously. There's not the bridge of incidents that you see in real life. There's no need to be particularly afraid of dreaming, but it should be taken seriously if you get a negative feeling in your gut when you read about lucid dreaming. Zealand gives stories of people possibly disappearing by going to some sector in their dream, but I've never heard of anything like that. A dream is like a snapshot which captures one brief moment out of a lifetime. It cannot be understood fully without knowing something about the life of the person it concerns. So, we can know the symbols, but it's not enough to know the meaning of the symbols alone. Without an understanding of symbols, we are greatly limited in our ability to navigate through the complex world of dreams. Even when we are familiar with the background of the person a dream concerns, we should use caution when we apply a symbol's meaning. Hasty dream interpretation should be avoided. Even Daniel mulled over Nebuchadnezzar's dream for an hour before he ventured in interpretation, and he knew the king's lifestyle well. One of the best ways to keep from either simply forgetting about a dream or jumping to conclusions concerning its meaning is to start a dream journal, like we talked about at the beginning. Take the time to write down a dream, usually causes you to remember more in greater detail. It provides a permanent record to come back to. By recording a dream and what it appears to be, we can check back later. And so that's often the big part, is the checking back later. Sometimes one dream by itself does not provide enough keys to know. So by recording these dreams, we learn in conjunction, as Neville Goddard did, as recording multiple visions as described in the Bible for him personally. But remember, Job said, God speaketh once, yea, twice. God is faithful to speak to us again and again if we are really trying to hear what he has to say. Jesus said to be careful of both what you hear and how you hear it. By listening carefully to what God is saying morning after morning, we are assured of more to come, because he said, unto you that hear shall more be given. Of course, the flip side of that is, he that hath not, from him shall be taken, even if that which he hath. When recording your dreams, be sure to include each date too. As another thing that I've just make sure to do a date, try to remember the location, where you dreamed it. Those are things that will help when you go back and look at it. The feelings you experience dreaming, as well as anything important, is going on in your life at the time of your dream. By recording the background information, you'll get a little bit more information. A night vision requires little or no interpretation. That's usually when it's obvious. So I think that that's the difference. But if you think that you had a vision, write it down as well. What we know from the Bible, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. There stood a man of Macedonia and prayed him, saying, come over into Macedonia and help us. And after seeing the vision, they immediately endeavored to go into Macedonia, gathering that the Lord had called for us to preach the gospel unto them. Acts 16:9 and 10. In contrast, a dream seldom lends itself to self-interpretation. The most common type of dream contains more than one scene. A progressive message unfolds as the dreamer is carried along, either as an observer or as a participant. Other dreams may contain 2 or 3 scenes when God is speaking. But the thing is, if it feels like a story, then you start to become aware that it is more than just a dream, that it's a communication. So there's always the first scene in a dream with more than one scene. The first scene usually gives the setting, like the backdrop of a play. It sets the stage so that the sealed message it contains can be understood. For example, in the scripture, people walking on one another is mentioned before Christ's teaching is given. In the meantime, when we were gathered together, an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trod one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Luke 12:1-2. This stage setting gives us a parable of the Pharisees' hypocrisy. They trod on the people, oppressing them for their own purposes. They required others to conform to strict laws while they excused themselves from obeying them. Observing this setting makes us aware of emphasis and implications in the words that we would otherwise miss in the same way. I believe God usually reveals the subject of his message in the first scene, and then once the subject has been established, the subsequent scenes enlarge upon the plot and carry it forward. This progression can be seen in Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, because dreams can cover several different subjects and ideas. It's important to correctly discern the subject matter to which the dream refers. If we don't do this, we may easily apply a dream to the wrong area of our lives. I don't think that happens very often. I think there's a part of us that always knows, and when we ask our heart, we get the interpretation. It's especially true when a dream contains people we can identify. Friends and family members are often used as symbols. Sometimes they represent ourselves, sometimes they represent another friend or family member, and sometimes they simply represent themselves. Only careful attention to all the scenes and symbols used in a dream will keep us from making this type of misapplication. So that is my best synthesis that I can give you of my understanding of what dreams are in relation to reality creation and how to understand them. I could talk further about different things and what they symbolize, but the ultimate message is that you will learn this by yourself, that the symbology is not going to be found in a book because it is within you. God's trying to communicate directly through you, not through this book. So write this stuff down and tell me about your dreams. I might not answer every comment, but if I have an idea of what your dream means, then I will let you know. Put them in the comments, and it would sure make a lot of fun to read the comments of this video if you would tell us about your dreams. I've had many crazy dreams, and I've had dreams with major time distortion, where I lived entire lives that I believe were visions, but I'll never know until maybe some future point. But clearly, becoming lucid in our dreams can help us understand our ability to use intention in waking life, and then understanding if our dreams are telling us of the future, and understanding the dynamics of what we're dreaming and whether or not it's a message or a vision. I've also given you some interesting ways to use dreams to create a catharsis, and some interesting affirmations that I gave earlier that you can use when you go to bed. I suggest that you create your own, but I sure hope this helps you to understand your dreams, what's happening, what they mean, and whether it's a vision, whether you're experiencing an alternate universe version of yourself, or whether it contains a message from God. And those are the things that we're learning. And the more that we learn, the better that we can understand, because I believe that God is giving us huge messages in our dreams about this future new earth that we're moving towards. And I can't wait to learn more. So share your visions and dreams in these comments, because God is talking to us in them. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution on this channel, on Brian Scott, or on therealityrevolution.com. Please leave a review for my book, The Reality Revolution, or a review on the Audible, and you will be put in a grand prize drawing for a free hour of coaching by me, which I will announce on the podcast. I love you guys so much. It means so much to me that you spent this time with me, and thank you. And I am only imagining the most incredible things for you. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.